The government is set for a reopening. Could this spark a rally into the crypto market? Today, we'll break it down for you. You don't want to miss it. Let's get started. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital. You guys may not know this, but they are the best IRA company out there for 2025. And this is according to a ton of people looking at crypto IRAs all the time. This is what we've been telling you for some time. If you guys are trying to get into crypto IRAs, and now is the time for tax planning to do that, this is the way to do it. Go over to itrustcapital.com, use our link down below. We have a special page for you to sign up and get your $100 funding reward just to get started. So check it out. You guys can get started. A lot of good stuff going over there. Man, #1 crypto IRA company for 2025. Kudos to them. Let's go over to the first item I want to hit on, and this is the U.S. House of Representatives now getting ready to vote on a bill to officially end a 43-day government shutdown at 7 p.m. today. If this happens, this will spark possibly some movement. I want to go to this first clip. This will give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what is up and what to expect. Take a look.
Hey, Carl. Well, yeah, the House, they're expected to be back to start the process of voting at 4 o'clock today. Final vote's probably not going to come until a little bit later, around 7 o'clock. And these are the final votes needed to reopen the government. Once the bill is passed and signed, federal workers are expected to get their paychecks as soon as possible, although, of course, it could take a few days to process those, depending on which areas of the government that they work in. For airports, that could take a little bit longer. Obviously, you are going to have folks receiving pay. They are being encouraged to come back to work. And as far as data, look, there's been some data that's been ready to go now for the last 40-some days in terms of job reports from September. But as far as other things, a lot of the folks who were collecting the data in the BLS for CPI and jobs numbers, they weren't there. They were furloughed. They weren't collecting things. And so we're going to kind of see exactly when this data does come out. Is it based on retroactive data? I think there are some questions about how accurate it is based on what the format and the data that they have. And some of that could take a little bit longer to get started. But we are expecting to get some more clarity once the government reopens.
All right, so government reopening likelihood holding on Polymarket at 97% between the 12th and 15th. So today and through the end of the week, that looks like it's going to happen. Now, the real question is, what does it do to the market? Many people would say, well, there may be some pent-up demand here in terms of the data, which could come in very negatively for the market. And then also you could just look at in general that this doesn't necessarily move the market because there is so much anticipation of where this might change in terms of all these past paychecks. They're going to be hitting all these employees. So does that mean that people might have a little extra cash because they've been kind of holding back? Do they go into the market with it? Who knows where this is going to go? But the key here is we are going to have an open government. Other things right now, you got Polymarket partnering with Yahoo. This is not as big of a thing, I don't think. Now, granted, I love Polymarket. I think it's going to be one of the biggest prediction markets out there. Don't necessarily think Yahoo is the perfect thing. I think they're going to end up with a lot more partnerships that will be much more relevant. But one of them, of course, is what Shane was talking about right here, and he's announcing a Polymarket multi-year partnership with Prize Picks, which will get very interesting because this will get into all sorts of betting that will flow into this. And remember, you've got a potential here where Polymarket could be setting up for, just imagine this, they go IPO, I'm just thinking down the road, do an acquisition of DraftKings. That's the kind of thing that could occur around where Polymarket is going. Lots of growth opportunity for them. Bitcoin rally is stalling right now as analysts are warning of another drop before a recovery. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think we get another drop? We had a nice little run here this week, but have retraced literally at time of recording back down to 101. So what do you guys think? Drop some comments down below. Let me know what you guys think in terms of where Bitcoin is going to be at the end of November. If you're not a subscriber, do that right now as well. Let me go over here to this point because this is one of the things that I think is another bullish catalyst that could start the market to move a little bit here. And this is 7 out of 12 Federal Reserve governors who basically are supporting a 50 basis rate point cut for December. This would be huge because prior to this, it was just Mirren that was kind of shouting the 50 basis points. Many people I've talked to have still said that its likelihood to get the quarter is probably the case. And if you look at what the Polymarket is on this right now, I'll zoom in on that. The quarter is holding at around 71%. The 50, look at that, 2.2. That is extremely low for 7 different people possibly on the verge of dissenting out of the 12. So right now, I would put much more weight in a 50 basis point cut on December the 10th. So be on the lookout of where that might look like going forward. Bitcoin projected value at November's end. Right here is the first poll that says by November, at the end of November, we'll have a 120K Bitcoin price, and that is holding at a 38% of that poll right there. But I still love to see what you guys think. Are you in line with this poll right here on 120K by the end of November? Let me know. Other things that are happening right now in DC, of course, the industry wants more clarity on the Senate Ag Market Structure draft. This is the draft that's coming through. They are not necessarily in favor of it. There are a few points to highlight here. Much of the blockchain-related language remains in brackets, meaning it's just not there, signaling that lawmakers right now have yet to come to a consensus, and the entire section on DeFi and anti-money laundering were left empty. This is not a good sign. This is probably going to push the Clarity Act back even further. Now, will it pass this year? Maybe in December. I don't think it's coming by Thanksgiving at all right now based on what we're seeing so far. But will it pass this year? That's the real question. Let me jump to this tweet right here because this kind of is in line with what the Clarity Act is talking about. And this is the SEC commissioner talking about that the token taxonomy to redefine crypto regulation is now underway. He was unveiling this. And he doesn't necessarily think that this is going to slow them down. And in fact, without the market structure bill being in place. So they're already setting up for this. So it could just be a formality before we actually see this. That's the way the SEC is looking at it right now. Timing on the Senate Ag's market structure bill markup. Right now, John Boozman, he's pointing at this date right here, which is potentially early December. So still before the end of the year. And that is kind of where we are right now. This, again, could be the right timing for the markets to react to this, because I do think this will be one of the catalysts to help lead it forward. Other things that are hitting right now, of course, Matt Hogan hits on this, and that is Coinbase relaunching their ICOs. And of course, Uniswap throws the fee switch. This is a new era for capital formation. I agree with Matt Hogan on this. We talked about this yesterday on the show. This is a big thing. Coinbase, of course, laid it out right here. If you look at over on their website, this is the breakdown of the new standard for token sales. Not necessarily a masterful piece here in terms of a lot of things you have to do. Basically, it's filling up from the bottom. Their request window is a little bit different and also putting users first. So the clarity is right there. Could we see, though, others start to go in this direction for a platform for ICOs? Things like, think about Robinhood maybe going in this direction. So good news, I think, for being able to raise capital. JPM, of course, launched some interesting news. This was a statement that they put out, and this was all about JP Morgan now being able to swap JP Morgan D for USDC on Base. Now, the question will be, where do the fees come from? Because this is starting to isolate a lot of activity into zones right now that have been mostly populated by Base and Circle collecting those fees. Question is, will this be a transitionary period for JP Morgan, or will they be actually foregoing some of the fees in the market? That's an issue that I think is going to be facing big banks in the near future, so get ready for that. Other things I want to hit on right now, of course, SUI announced their big news, and that is its very own stablecoin. And this, of course, is coming under USD SUI. You guys, of course, can learn. And this is the first true native stablecoin that could be a big factor out there. Earning yield, and this will be a big factor, I think, as we see what SUI is going to do with being able to get it out there, because the biggest issue I think most stablecoin suppliers have is distribution. Now, SUI's got some, and I think the audience, probably, when I say the audience of a SUI owner, yes, but are they drawing in more users? I think that's the real question, that they have to compete against others that are doing a fairly good job on that, especially if you look at Coinbase and Circle, and others that kind of go in this direction of having good distribution. That's the key point here. But one thing that will draw them in is going to be this, incentives. So this is the incentives just got refreshed across single asset vaults, and they look pretty good right here. If you just look at SUI USDT at 9.3, and then there's Deep at 29%. So Some pretty interesting things happening over on Kai Finance. You guys should check it out. It's an interesting platform. Other things that are happening right now, you've got the Bessent coming in, talking about another $2,000 tariff stimulus check, that it's going to basically be available for Americans who make less than $100K a year. And of course, that means people like because I mean, really, if you think about it, for a lot of people, especially in states like California, that may not even be considered in the right bracket. If you take a look at this clip, this kind of breaks down what else they're going to offer as a potential stimulus to the economy. Take a look.
I'm also the IRS commissioner. So what I can see is that with the president's signature campaign promises, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, auto deductibility of loans if you buy an American car, Americans didn't change their withholding for 2025.
Right.
So we're going to see substantial refunds for working families at the beginning, in the first quarter of 25. They'll change their withholding at the beginning of the year, and that will be a natural, the real wage growth.
So two things the president has thrown out, and I'll just tell you what he said to make it shorter. He said, hey, I'm thinking about $2,000 stimulus checks coming from the tariffs to everybody and 50-year mortgages. First off, on the $2,000 stimulus checks, isn't that like using your overdraft to pay off your credit cards? Or isn't it like, taking money from a credit card and paying off your bills? Do you think that that's the most financially responsible thing to do?
Well, there are a lot of options here. The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say,
Okay.
$100,000.
Have you decided on that yet?
We haven't.
All right, so it seems still a little bit uncertain as to when and if this is going to happen. I noticed, though, that in that clip, Bessent is doubling down on all these other, natural effects. He's even talking about changing withholding. Yes, I understand that reduces your tax implication, but if you don't have the deductions, now he is saying that there are some deductions that have been awarded to that. That, of course, is almost like, a tax rebate in essence that he's kind of doubling down on. I wonder if he's going to back into that being the stimulus for the economy. I don't know. I'm just going to be a little curious on this. Let me go to another clip because this is Wells Fargo talking about where this market could go from here. Take a look.
Osang, it's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You're calling for an everything rally into year end. Tell me more.
Yeah, so we're targeting 7,100 by year end this year. I think everything's going to rally. The market is starting to broaden out, and we see about 5 reasons why we think everything's going to rally. Number one, seasonality, especially for the laggards. November, December, and January are the most positive months for the laggards. Number two, the IPA tariffs refund, potential refund. We saw the hearing last week. We expect the ruling sometime in December or January. I think there's going to be a reflation trade into that event. Number three, the tax return. The tax return is going to be bigger this year because of One Big Beautiful Bill. We're talking about $800 per person on average versus last year. So that's going to be another reflation event into next year. Earnings were positive and potential government reopen sometime this week, hopefully. Our sentiment indicator actually triggered a buy signal. It's a contrarian signal. So sentiment actually has gotten really negative as of last Friday. So historically, when our sentiment buy signals triggered, we saw the S&P 500 rallying about 7.5% over the next 3 months, being positive 90% of the time. So this is a very strong signal that we got.
All right, some interesting signals on TradFi here, but if you look at the crypto market here, fear and greed, this may be the signal right now of where we are, because we are almost at the bottom again around fear and greed. If you kind of look at where we have come from, imagine right there, back in October, we were holding at a 62. Bitcoin price was 124 at the time. And even if you go back into the previous, which was back in May, Bitcoin was still only at 107. So this is an intriguing scenario that could play out through November, December, and January. To Wells Fargo's analyst point right there is that sentiment may be lifting in the market. Let me go to one more thing right here, and of course this is still bullish. This is for Ethereum. The Fusaka upgrade is coming, and it's coming on December 4th. I know this has been moved, but looks like December 4th is going to be the new day. Remember the last time this happened with Pectra, ETH jumped 40%. So nice little move there. Could this happen with Ethereum? Let me know what you guys think. Let's dive over to the chart real quick, and I've got this marked out. This is the period of when Pectra launched. In that 7-day window, we had about a 52% move on Ethereum. So nice little move there. If you look at where we are right now on ETH, let's go over and take a look at this, because one thing to consider, do we get that kind of move from where we're trading right now at around 33.85? This would be somewhere in the range of that 5K window that we've been kind of looking at for some time. Could Fusaka be the catalyst that takes Ethereum to new all-time highs and into 5K? It's going to be a good one. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Of course, if you're not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that. It's our own free group. It's absolutely easy to join. Just click the link down below. Follow me out there on X, and we'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.